Hey guys, my name is Will and I'm a game designer here at Lunark Studios. For this week's gameplay video, we're going to do something slightly different. I'm going to show you a replay of a game I played against my good friend Mike McDonald, or better known as Timex in the poker world. And I'm going to focus on the strategic elements of the game. I wrote an article earlier this week that describes how Prismata has less calculation and more strategic intuition than most other games. And so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be narrating our game the way someone could narrate a StarCraft match, mostly discuss the strategy without paying too much attention to the exact numbers. So you don't really need to know the exact tactical rules of the game to follow along. And so here, this is the random set of units that were generated, and usually you want to base your strategy around these units instead of the base units, which are in every single game of Prismata. And the reason is these units are on average a bit stronger than the base units. And if they weren't, this would be a problem because then a lot of games might be the same and everyone would just get the base units. But because these units are different every game of Prismata is different. You can think of it like StarCraft with a random tech tree. So here Timex is the first player, and he does something pretty standard, builds 2 drones. Usually at the beginning of an RTS, you want to be beefing up your economy with drones. And normally I would just also build 2 drones here, except I actually got a very early conduit to start collecting the green resource. And this is actually very early tech for me, and it's not really the way I usually like to play Prismata. Usually I like to be the reactive player. Since there's no randomness or fog of war, I can see exactly what my opponent is doing and try to plan my moves to counter his. But here I wanted to be the first to commit because sometimes you just need, because Fabricator is a very strong unit. There's a lot of green units here in the random set, and being able to collect enough green early to get a Fabricator, and even though it's committing, it is very efficient. And so you got to commit to ever get anything done. So I actually committed early here against my usual plan. But Timex here actually goes for a very interesting opening. He gets a Blast Forge, which is also very early tech on turn 2. But the thing is, it's almost more committal than my strategy in some sense. Because when I got the green, I sort of have 4 options here. Trinity Drone is an economic unit. Aegis is a defensive unit. And Isochronous is like a burst sort of rushy attacker, whereas Fabricator is a very long-term build-up. It builds up an army of Gauss cannons, which are extreme late-game units. So even though I committed to a tech, within that tech I have a lot of options in this random set. But when he got the Blast Forge here, he actually doesn't have too many options. But he does have one pretty powerful option, which is getting a Flame Animus, which gives him access to red tech while attacking me. And then he can start pumping out these Hannibals, which is a very strong early game harasser. I like saying the word harasser instead of attacker because they usually don't win the game by themselves because there's a limit of only 4 of them. You can only get 4 of them, but they usually can deal so much damage in the early game that the opponent is very economically behind going into the mid-game. So this was very scary and very, very nice play. And yeah, so it sort of threw a curveball at me. And so I'm the top player here. And I sort of responded by, my solution was, when you get attacked, in general, the standard thing to do is to defend. And these blue units here can defend. But there's actually one other strategy in Prismata, which is I can just not defend at all, but upgrade the health of all my units to be very, very high. And even though I'm not stopping his defense, it's actually really hard for him to kill anything because all of my units have so much health. And I actually opted for the latter strategy here because Trinity Drone is so good at doing that. Normally, drones only have 1 health and are the first units to die to his attack. But I can upgrade them to Trinity Drones if I collect enough green. And then, even though he's attacking, it'll take him a very long time to destroy my economy. So I decided to get a second conduit here, I think. Yeah, Normally I would just play drone here and beef up my economy, but because of the impending threat, I had to get a second conduit. So he already accomplished something by getting that blast forge. Even if he doesn't stick with the original plan, he's delayed my drone count and forced me to get the second conduit, forced me to commit even further to green tech. And that was my turn. And then here, at the time, this completely surprised me, and Timex does something brilliant here. He actually doesn't proceed with the plan that I thought he was originally had in his mind. He converted his blast forge to a conscriptor, and so he actually completely shied away from the flame animus Hannibal rush I was discussing earlier, and just got a conscriptor and droned up. The conscriptor converts his drones into steel splitters, which is a basic attacking unit that is also pretty good at defense. And so, I thought he was the one committing when he got that blast forge, but suddenly this turn, he's shifted from the guy who committed to the blast forge to now he has a lot of options. He's got no tech, he's got a lot of drones, and he's got the conscriptor that can build steel splitters, which can both attack or defend. Suddenly he's given himself a lot of options. And he already scared me into laying down that second conduit. If I knew he was going to do this, I wouldn't have laid down that second conduit that early. This was very good play by him. And after the game, I asked him, and he said this was sort of his plan when he got the early blast forge. He was aware of the flame animus Hannibal rush, but he said he wasn't too optimistic about it. He didn't think it would do that much. So he said unless I went really greedy econ, he probably wasn't going to proceed down that line. So suddenly now I'm the one who has to react because, if I don't deal some damage with my early conduits, I'm going to lose. And what I chose to do actually was, instead of trying to counteract his greater economy by rushing him down, I was actually going to try to just set up an early fabricator. So fabricator, I think out of all the units in Prismata, is the one that sets you up for the best late game. And even though my economy was behind his, if I laid down the fabricator before him, I think I could still match him maybe in the late game. So that was my plan. I was banking 5 gold this turn just so I could get that fabricator next turn. So a bit of a cheesy, fast tech into fabricator build by me. So he still doesn't commit, gets more drones. And I lay down the fabricator as I intended to do. And here he's going to start whacking away at my engineers, which I'm fine with. All I need to make sure is that I upgrade all of my drones to Trinity drones by the time he gets through to my drones, so that he can't kill my drones that efficiently. The Trinity drone, you can see the picture. It's like a green cage that encloses the drones and protects them. So here he actually switches to conduits. And that, I'm not sure if that was actually the best strategic overall choice. It's not bad. The thing is, at this point, I'm already fairly committed. I'm going for a fabricator late game with low defense, but very high health on all my units. And the theoretical counter against that strategy is to defend, right? It sort of makes sense. If your opponent's units all have infinite HP but can't attack that efficiently, you don't beat it by trying to rush them down. You beat it by defending forever and getting to the late game. And Timex tried to accomplish this by getting 2 conduits, and I think probably getting his own fabricator. And Aegis is also a good defender. If I was in his shoes, I definitely would have considered rebuilding that blast forge and getting an animus, and maybe just going for some kind of Tarsier wall late game strategy, since I can't really. So Tarsier is like a very efficient attacker, but it's bad if your opponent has bursty attack they can get through. But at this point, I really didn't. So I'm not sure. I think what he did was fine, but it was. I definitely think he had an option to actually shy completely away from green tech here. Although green tech does seem to be the tech of choice in the sense that it gives you the most options. There's the most amount of green units. So yeah, he gets the conduits, and yeah, I proceed with the game plan. So I'm starting to convert all my drones into Trinity drones, and he is still just building up more drones. And so yeah, so we both proceed with our game plans. And so I'd say at this point in the game, I actually didn't feel too good about myself because he kind of had more drones and more attackers. My only advantage was I had more health on all of my drones and attackers. So that was sort of the asymmetry right now in this case. We both have a similar amount of economy, and he has slightly more economy and slightly more offense, but I have thicker skin on all my units. And, but the thicker skin isn't going to come into play until much later. Oh yeah, so I remember considering transitioning to Animus here because I thought I was going to lose the game at this rate. Yeah, his early transition kind of got me. And I was going to transition to Frostbites, which is an auxiliary attacker that allows me to get through his defense and get at his drones. And I was thinking maybe I could time it so that I could get enough Frostbites to slaughter his drones before he can put them all under the sanctuary of the Trinity drones. So I considered it for a while, but I thought it just wasn't going to work. So I thought I probably wasn't maybe wasn't that far behind. I think I was maybe a bit pessimistic. Yeah, I wasn't that far behind. So I would just go on and see what he does because he has an interesting decision here and how to spend his 4 green. And he went for the Fabricator, I think. Yeah, so he went for the Fabricator. So he's saying, okay, I'm comfortable with getting to the late game. Yes, my Fabricator was later than yours, but I'm going to challenge you in the late game with my superior economy and superior military at the time. And okay, so this seems like a reasonable line by him. And right, so okay, so at this point, I was like, okay, I guess I just have to get some attackers, and I either have to get Gauss cannons or Isochronous. It honestly doesn't make a world of difference in this case. Isochronous attacks every other turn, which is so instead of attacking for a similar amount each turn, you get a burst of attack every other turn. But against his type of defense, which is so against like defense that tries to absorb lots of small attacks with like walls and stuff, this would be a much superior strategy. But against his defense, it doesn't matter too much. And so whether my attack came in waves, but I chose to get the Isochronous. I thought it worked combinatorially better. So it was more of a tactical decision than a strategic one, I think. But really the Gauss cannon, I think, would have accomplished a similar effect. Maybe the Isochronous is a bit better because it gives him fewer options on how to defend if I get to attack in huge chunks instead of one at a time. So yeah, he's essentially just copying my game plan now. So our build orders are, we were sort of converging on similar techs, except he got that early Blast Forge to convert into a Conscriptor, and he has all these Steel Splitters. So yeah, maybe I do have a chance here because the very late game actually sort of belongs to me. There's going to come a point in the game where I'm going to start killing his Steel Splitters, and in exchange, he's going to be killing my Gauss Cannons. But the fact that my Gauss Cannon has 5 health compared to the 3 of his Steel Splitter is actually going to be relevant. And maybe that'll give me enough of a late game push that I can actually grind out the late game. So here he gets I guess he gets an Aegis to defend. So he's still defending here. And so yeah, so he's killing conduits. Oh yeah, so this was interesting. One disadvantage of my strategy where he can kill whatever he wants is it's much harder to plan out a build order. Because, if I'm low on tech and high on drones, he can destroy my tech. If I'm high on tech and low on drones, he can destroy my drones. So it's very hard to have an exact build order in my shoes because he can kill whatever he wants. So here he noticed that I have 15 gold already in my bank, but only 2 green. So my limiting thing was my green. So he killed the conduit, which is good tactical play by him. And so I have to rebuild conduits here, but, then next turn he's going to kill the Trinity drones. So whatever, I'm piling up more Isochronous. And here Here he kills the Gauss cannons, which I think is a questionable decision. I think in general here, he wants to... I think since his steel splitters are... they have less health than my Gauss cannons, I think the Gauss cannons just aren't a very good target. I think he should try to get rid of my economy first and prevent me from building more stuff. Although I think it's really close. I think, yeah, I guess killing the Gauss cannons is reasonable from a strategic point of view, in the sense that I'm actually running low on supply in general. I've built all my isochronuses, and I probably only have 5 Gauss cannons left. So, maybe my conduits are actually useless after that, because there's no more attackers I could build. So, yeah, all these little decisions can really add up in a game of Prismata. And, they're sort of, and tactics matter a bit in this case. The exact numbers matter a bit. But, deciding whether to kill your opponent's army or kill their economy first completely affects the trajectory of the game. And, having a good gut feeling of which types of trajectories benefit you, given, the differences between your tech and their tech, your economy and their economy, your military and their military, really makes a huge difference. And so, yeah, so the game is still going on. I actually feel like I'm in better shape now. I don't know if Timex actually fucked up too much. I don't think he did. I think maybe just my original assessment that I was in really bad shape was wrong. Maybe he made a few strategic decisions that were maybe questionable, but I definitely think he played quite well. But yeah, I think he just had just a bit, I think I just barely had a bit more stuff than him in the late game. And here you see, the weakness of the steel splitters. I killed them all in one shot. And, if they were Gauss cannons instead, I wouldn't have been able to do this. And yeah, I think at this point he just resigns. Yeah, so he just resigns. That's the end of the game. But yeah, great game from Timex. Great. I think he played very well. I think I was fortunate that the strategy I picked happened to just barely beat him in the late game. But hope you guys like this. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. And I look forward to playing Prismata against all of you.